Hello everybody! Today I'd like to show you my Book BuJo because this is something that is very dear to me and that I haven't shown much before. And as you can see, I am still using my B6 Travels notebook, and also the flower clip is also still there. I just use it for my Book BuJo now and not for my actual planner because I finished my Stalogy in November. So that's why I made a little change with this. So if I open this, I can take off the felt flower. There you can see that I put this craft paper envelope over this Lauren Phelps Designs cover, and it's actually, well, a bit of a tight fit. So to be fair, I don't know if it's going to stay in here, but for the time being it does fit, so I'm keeping it here. Anyway, let's open this book up. And actually the first page is just my address, that's why I clipped this shut. The second one is an about me. Of course, not just any about me, but one that's related to books. So what reading means to me, my favorite genres, my least favorite genres, my favorite places to read, and some of my favorite books. Of course, that's not a full list because I've got a lot of books that are dear to me, but these are maybe the books that were most influential to me, actually. That's what this is. And the second page is for quotes. As you can see, it's not like a quotes page that's meant to stay here. That's because my previous Book BuJo, well, I made a bit too many spreads for quotes. So I'm just using this sticky note setup to jot down the quotes from the books I love, and then I'm going to transfer them to my other BuJo that's actually full, except for the quotes pages, because I didn't have that many quotes, so I did the opposite here and just made this one page. I'm going to transfer the quotes that I have until my other BuJo is full, if it ever is, and then I'm just going to use this page for real and maybe make some other quotes pages later on, because as with any BuJo, the setup isn't set in stone, so if I need more, I can just add more there. The same is true for this page with recommendations, mostly from planner people I watched and also from a friend of mine. I was under expecting how much space I needed for that, so it's already full, even though my Book BuJo has only just started. If I need more, I'm just going to add another recommendation spread, and I'm doing the index in the back, so that's something I explained about my Stalogy that I actually used as a planner as well. I'll just jot down where the other recommendation spread will be once I make it, and then everything is okay. As for the book wish list, I didn't have that many items for that yet, but the same is true for this. I actually don't expect it to last for the whole Stalogy because it's, 365 pages is a lot. There is my stack of unread books, and that's actually just, well, number one of the stacks of unread books. There's more to come, but I just flipped this shut because, well, I don't want to bother you with all the books I want to read. But I don't have a set reading list. I'm just reading what I feel like reading, and I decide what to read next once I'm almost done with my previous book, or sometimes even after I'm done with a book. Depends. But these are some things that I want to read, have been wanting to read for a long time in some places. So Paradise Lost is actually something that's been on my reading list for quite a while, but I haven't got around to it yet. So that's that. Here is my book tracker, and I'm just tracking how many books I read in 1 month. As you can see, I had a bit of a slump in May. And this is actually due to the fact that 1, I didn't have that much time, and 2, I'm reading a book that's a bit lengthy, and it's also an online book, so it's a bit tougher to read for me because I prefer either ebooks or bound books, but this is just online to be read on the website, and so I'm not finished yet. And this is just for 2021, so I did these in purple, and then I'll be going over it with black, and in 2022 probably blue. So that's the plan at the least. Then there is this little reading challenge that's actually made up of several reading challenges I found interesting, and so I just combined them. Anyway, and this is just a template. As you can, or as you will see later on, it's not exactly how I'm setting up my spreads just now, but these are just some ideas. So if I'm out of ideas about what to write, I can just take this spread, look at the things I'm always doing up until here. I haven't done favorite characters in quite a while. First and the last sentence, I haven't done that in quite a while either. But what I always do is a comment on the contents and sometimes sort of a review or summary. That's what I always do, but you're going to see that soon. Then I actually have, this is my blotting paper. That's not actual blotting paper, but I'm using it as blotting paper. And I'm just not showing you this because I haven't actually started on this manga yet, so I have no idea if I can recommend that or not. But what I can definitely recommend is Vinland Saga. That's one of my absolute favorites. It's set in 1014 and it's about Vikings and conquering England and several other topics that are very interesting and also philosophically interesting. But I haven't been good with that. I haven't been keeping up with it in quite a while, so I need to do that. I don't know how many of these have actually been released yet. I just need to update this, which is true for the whole manga section that I'm just going to skip for that reason. But as you can see, this is just a tracker of which manga volumes I bought and which ones I read. So that's that. And at the moment, I'm actually at 5 stars with it. So I'm not sure yet. It depends a bit on how it continues, but I love this manga, definitely. And this is just sort of a tracker that's keeping me up to date with this magazine that's called Daphne's Diary. It's just nice things that you can also cut out and put in a BuJo or in a journal. I'm actually wanting to use them for journals more, those spreads from Daphne's Diary, but as you can see, I haven't got all of them yet. Some of them are sold out and some I just haven't bought yet. Then we're starting with the actual stuff. This is a book that's also very dear to me. I love E.M. Forster's books in general, and A Passage to India is something that I had on my reading list also for quite a while because I once read the book The Hill of Devi by him. That's his, you can see the title written there, The Hill of Devi. That's his book about his years with the Maharaja of Devas Senior. And he wrote this book about colonial India. And what's really interesting is that he doesn't really, I'd say he has an intermediate position. He's definitely not an imperialist. He's very understanding about Indian, peculiarities, but he doesn't understand everything. And I love this book, especially love the ending. That's so, so nice. Then there is actually something that I don't want to show you because I didn't like it. So just showing you the books that I actually liked, actually. And the next one is, the classic, Ryder Carroll's The Bullet Journal Method. And as you can see, I always do the same. There is the title, then the author. This is actually printed on Tomoe River paper so that it doesn't bulk up too much, because Tomoe River paper is very thin and I don't want to bulk up this Stalogy too much. I mean, I'm going to bulk it up anyway with this washi tape that I'm putting on each page, but just to keep it down a bit. I don't mind it bulking up, but it doesn't have to be so bulky that it's becoming difficult to write in it. I don't want that. So that's that. This rating is just a stencil, and I actually used a stamp here, but I switched from the stamp to the stencil once I got one that was suitable for it. So you can check which stencil that was in the first video I made, and I'm probably also going to write it under this video. Anyway, what I'm also always noting down is when I started reading my book and when I finished it. So I just note that down in my planner normally. and I also always note down whether it's a book I would recommend or whether I wouldn't recommend it. In this case, it's one that I definitely recommend. Then I always note down which genres I would say this book is, and then which keywords or phrases I would use for it. Always include a summary. And then in this case, since it's the bullet journal method and it's also about rapid logging, I rapid logged the whole book in here, took notes of it. And as you can see, this continues for quite a while. Also included this chart about getting in the flow. And that's that. So a very concise summary of the whole book of the bullet journal method in 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. And I went really overboard with this. I also included a quote. I have my impressions, so personal opinions and so on in here, and also a personal note about bullet journaling. I'm not always going this overboard with my entries, but this one is, I think, among the longest. But normally it's just 1 page. Sometimes 2, but normally just 1. This one actually has 2, but I wrote something on the second page that was a bit more personal that I don't show you here. But if you want to read what's on the other side, except for that personal comment, you can actually check on my Instagram account, because there I have the picture or the 2 pictures, and you can also read what's written there. Anyway, My Name is Red is the English title of this book by Orhan Pamuk. And I also love this one. It's set in the late 16th century, and it's about calligraphy and also about style and the differences between Turkish miniature and the European understanding of art. And it was also very interesting in that respect, even though I think the multi-perspective narration sometimes takes a bit away of the conciseness. So sometimes I thought it was a bit, lengthy, as you can see with the reading dates, as compared to this one, which I read in just a few days, and the bullet journal method really, really fast. And in this case, it all just took longer, but it was also due to the fact that I had a lot more work to do when I read this one. And as you can see, also the summary always, then impressions, and then it continues. This one is a German book I read. It's a very popular whodunit series about a detective from the Allgäu region, and it also uses dialect. I've thought that the first books use more dialect than the later books. That's probably because it's become famous all over Germany, and maybe the author thought that the dialect was a bit too difficult to understand for people who aren't from this region or adjacent regions, or just from southern Germany, which I am too. So I don't have any problems with that dialect, and I would love if they included more of it, but well. So this is actually the continuation of the previous book that ended with sort of a cliffhanger. This one doesn't, which I think is really good, because I loved about this series that yes, there are motives that recur, but that you can read each book independently. I'm glad that they went back to that, the 2 authors. And as you can see, I did everything in English up until the summary, because the book was in German. I also wrote the summary in German. And I actually think they tried to translate this to other languages as well, but because the humor is a lot based on dialect and on language, it doesn't work that well in other languages. Anyway, it just didn't become popular in other countries. Let's leave it at that, but I love it. This is the same, by the same authors. It is actually an audiobook. That's also, it was quite short, and that's why, it was okay, but I don't like this quite as much as I like the full-length novel. I mean, this is probably novella length, 50, 70 pages, I don't know, not that long in any case. Chain of Gold is actually a book I fell in love with. I didn't expect that, because I didn't like the previous series by Cassandra Clare quite as much as the first ones, the Mortal Instruments, that you may also know as the Shadowhunters series on Netflix, which I actually hate. I think they did a terrible job with that interpretation, but in any case, if you like it, then that's fine by me. I just think the books are so much better than the series. Anyway, The Chain of Gold series is set in London around the turn of the century. The turn from the 19th to the 20th century, and I just enjoyed a lot that it was set in the past and that there are all these characters that are really well characterized, in my opinion, very lovable characters. She's doing a good job with characterization, in my opinion. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the second book, which is set to be released in March. Oh yes, and that's also something that I could show you quickly, because I'm keeping printouts of books I want to read here. That's the next one in the series, Chain of Iron, and I hope I'm going to get to them. Just printed them on Stalogy paper, because, you know, if you just print one tiny thing on, not Stalogy paper, on Tomoe River paper, then it would be a waste of paper to just have one tiny picture printed out. So that's why I printed out several books that I want to read. Of course, there will be ones that I didn't think about, or that just come to my mind later on, that I get recommended later. So I just choose some more books and just add them on a spread, and then I'm just printing it out once again, and then I have, well, like 20, 20 or so more, or 16 I think is what fits on one sheet. Anyway, this is that. And I don't know if I like this. I just tried to, it says there be vampires in Kurrentschrift, in German Kurrent. So that's what I did there, to mix it a bit up, because I thought this washi was a bit boring, but I wanted one that was red at the least, and that had also black in it, like this one, because that's the cover of the book. It's Fangs by Sarah Anderson. It's actually a graphic novel or a comic, depending on how you define the border between the two of them. I also enjoyed this book a lot. It's just such a feel-good comic, graphic novel, whatever. I love it. There are some notes that I had on a comment or an opinion. The notes are just that it's usually that it used to be published as a webcomic series on Tapas, and that the hardcover edition is cloth-bound in red with letters and a cover illustration in black engraved on it, and it just is beautifully made. So it's worth it buying it as a book if you enjoy these things. Then that's the book I haven't that I haven't read yet, because there's just, well, the basics. I usually write down the basics up until here, and then the summary once I've actually read it. So that's that. And this is the book I read in the beginning of this year. It's called Journal Me Organized by Replica Spooner, and it's, well, one of these bullet journal method books that explain also the artsy side of it. But what I think was special about it, and I can actually show you this, so I just cut out my adjusting process. There are actually a few reviews on YouTube, I think, as well. So I'm not going through the whole book right now, but I just want to show you how it's set up. So that's just the first chapter about getting started. So what is planning? What tools do you need? And I really like that this is kept to the basic minimum. It doesn't tell you like you need to buy this pen and that pen and so on, but it says, well, you just need to the basics, and what else you use, for example, watercolors and such, just make sure not to buy overpriced things or too many things. That's that. And so I've got a similar watercolor set, actually. I don't think it's the same one, but it's the one by Artify that I have, and looks quite similar. And anyway, there is just this tiny thing that I didn't like about it, is that I don't know if it's due to the fact that this book is from 2018 or was published in 2018, and there weren't that many traveler's notebook sizes around yet. I don't know, but it says here that there are just 3 sizes, which isn't true, because, you know, there are a lot more traveler's notebook sizes by now. And also I think pocket and field note size isn't passport size. Passport is a bit less high and a bit wider. Anyway, that's the only thing that I have to criticize about this book. Otherwise, I really love it. I especially love this chapter 4, because it gives you some step-by-step guides of it, what you can include in your journal. For example, that's something I haven't tried out yet, but I definitely want to try it out, because it just is make a watercolor ombre background. So you just use one color and use it on this foil or wax paper or anything like that. Anyway, you watercolor over it, then use another color, and you don't clean your brush so that the colors blend into each other. Then you just press it on your page and wait a bit and then pull it off, and then it's just this wonderful ombre background on which you then can write or journal or do whatever. And I've actually tried it out in my Hobonichi Cousin. I know that you can watercolor on it, and once the watercolor is dry, you can write on it with water-based inks and it won't smear. So I really love that, and I'm definitely going to try that one out. That's something about acrylic paints. Watercolor tip-ins is what you can do there. Fake lettering is something that probably everyone knows, but I also really enjoyed this one. You could also do this with other things than just leaves, I believe, because, well, it's winter right now, and I see some leaves when I see outside, but there aren't that many as in fall or as in autumn. What you do is you just put them on the back of your page, then you use wax over it, paint on it with watercolors, and then blend them and let it dry. I think that's just a really cool effect, and that's really something that I want to try out as well. You can probably also use coins or something like that if you want to, well, basically anything that gives an indent that you can watercolor over. So that's that. I really love that. And there are also crafting ideas there in the background, how to make your own tabs. These are actually fixed tabs, so they aren't that interesting to me. But this one is really nice, the corner bookmark that you can just do with paper. I think you can also sew it, that also works. Or decorative planner flags or clips with also paper or ribbon or whatever you like. Cork, whatever. Custom pockets, and there is actually, as you can see, the cursive font, block lettering fonts. And there is also this pocket template at the back that you can just use and copy. Also animal doodles you can trace if you want. Dividers you could trace. Flowers. I just really like that. It gives you some hands-on inspiration also on how to make your own notebook. Or traveler's notebook insert is what this rather is. I just enjoy that she included hands-on advice. So if you want to do a bit of crafting in your journal or in your planner and you don't know where to start, this is giving you quite a good piece of advice, quite a good start. And it's simple, something anyone can do. And I enjoyed this section most about this book. So there were actually some inspirations in it that I found really helpful. So in any case, that's the last book that I read so far. Still reading on this one. And the rest is just blank. And once I have decided which book to read after the one I'm currently reading, I'll just use washi tape that fits the cover. You probably noticed that I'm trying to find washi tape that's matching. Also here, because there is this postcard, and no, this is the photo, and there is, because it's also about letters, I have this one here. And here I just went with the color of the cover. Here also matching colors. And so I will decide which washi tape to lay down. I will glue in the cover of the book, write these bits of information, and then just read it. And once I'm done, the rest is going to come. And like I said in the beginning, there is this handy list that I can pull from. I actually mark this here. which things to include. For example, I really should include favorite characters at some point. I didn't do that for quite a while right now, or quite a while so far. And sorry for just, you know, my desk is a bit flimsy. Anyway, that's that. This is my bullet, or Book BuJo. And what I'm doing here is I'm just putting back the felt flower clip so that we have it like we started. I actually forgot that in my past videos, I noticed that, but in any case, I'm not forgetting it now. Have a nice day, and I'm going to see you soon, hopefully.